record time. Can I hear? Yep. This dude's wearing sunglasses.
Yeah, you know. Just living my midlife crisis, just like my boy over here with his new motorcycle.
I'm not wearing my motorcycle around my neck. Jesus Christ.
Come on, man. I'm just trying to keep it real. You know, that's what we do now on the Beyond the Match podcast.
G-Unit. Get your ass in the car.
What was that Chappelle skit about keeping it real?
Yeah. When keeping it real goes wrong.
Yeah. I won't keep the glasses on the whole episode.
Are those Audi glasses? What is...
Well, let me just lay out the drip for you.
Okay, yeah, please
Probably
do.
the nicest thing that I'm wearing is my watch. This Citizen watch I actually bought in Toronto.
Ooh.
Which is kind of cool. So it was a couple $100.
Is that where they're made?
I think they are Canadian, if I remember correctly.
Really? I asked because
wrong.
you specifically said it like that's where they're manufactured.
Yeah, I could be wrong there. But
Okay.
But you know, that's the nicest. That's probably the most authentic thing I'm wearing. Shoes,
Yeah.
shirt,
Well, yep.
Pants.
You're definitely wearing a shirt and some shoes.
brought to you by Walmart.
Hey, that's all right.
And I got the chain from Balanzi, I think is the name of the company.
Okay.
But
That's
yeah,
That's a thick chain.
yeah,
That's
you
a
know,
lot of
it's a
gold.
thick boy.
It is.
And then I got these shades from Walgreens.
Oh, cool. Well, I initially was thinking you were about to say from Racetrack.
Might as well have been Racetrack, to be honest.
No, you look great, Jeff. You
Thanks,
look
man.
great. Yeah.
I'm trying, dude.
Hey, you got to, you know, for you, not for other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, do I
for
feel
me.
good in my own skin? If the answer is yes, you're doing it right.
I feel like Robert De Niro in Taxi Driver.
Ooh, I thought you were going to say the lady from Pretty Woman.
What?
Yeah.
Robert De Niro wasn't in that movie.
I know. I thought you were going to say you feel like the lady from Pretty Woman.
Oh, that's okay. Well, I could feel that way too, I guess.
Yeah, you can. That's you.
So today we have an intro, and I think it's your turn to give it.
Yeah.
You ready?
Okay. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Beyond the Match podcast with Jeffrey F. Spain, your host, James Anthony Williams, your co-host, and today's episode is episode 6. We are doing this repeatedly. And today's episode's title is Communication.
Communication.
Yeah.
It always seems to be things that I need help with.
That's not you specifically.
Not me
Everybody could
specifically,
use,
but it feels
help with
that
all these
internally
things.
I feel that. I'm like, you know what? Communication is definitely something. Well, it depends on the type of communication.
Yeah.
'Cause we all have different methods and experiences with how we communicate with the world. And, you know, jiu-jitsu is no different.
Yeah.
You know, how a person rolls on the mat says a lot about them.
Yeah, like that is legit 100% conversation. And some people don't have good communication skills, and at a white belt level, you see it. They don't communicate well on the mat. Everything is a life or death situation.
Yeah, I think when it's rare that you see people that are more calm and like they know that they're new, but most of the time they're overly aggressive. And I think, you know, call back to the ego episode, that's where a lot of it comes from. So, but when you have somebody who's really aggressive, what are they making up for ultimately? They don't know the language.
Lack
They don't
of experience.
know.
Lack
They
of
don't know how to
skill.
speak the language, right? What's the proper response when I'm put in this position? It's probably not to slam the guy
Yeah.
because we're not on the streets, so to speak. It's probably not to grab their finger and bend it backwards.
Oh, yeah.
Or at any individual single digits.
Or bite, because that happens.
I had a dude grab my toe one time
Oh.
and was just like looking me dead in the eye like,
Was that at our gym?
yeah, dude.
Don't make eye contact with me like it was me. Like I didn't do this,
No, it
folks.
wasn't you. It was a white belt guy.
Oh, good. That makes it better.
But he didn't do nothing with it. He just wanted to let me know he had it. And I was
Yeah.
like, I respected it.
I
was
got
like,
this
okay,
toe. I will snap
toe
it.
bar is legit.
Yeah. It's got to be legal. Like you don't have to be a brown belt to toe bar, I guess.
No, I don't think so. Probably legal by blue belt, I would say.
Yeah, probably. I think it's called the toe hitch, actually. It's,
toe hitch.
Yeah, that's the actual IBJJF term for it. Yeah.
I mean, so, when you're learning the language, sometimes you screw up and you say things you don't mean, right?
Yeah.
And so in sparring, when you're trying to win, I think sometimes guys who have been training a while take those things personally.
Yeah.
And it's like, he doesn't know. Like, white belts are like wild animals.
Yeah.
You got to train them.
To an extent, yes. That's partly true. Literally, that's why they're there. They're there to be trained. So, yeah, you're right.
So I think, as a good instructor or even as a good seasoned practitioner, if you see a guy making the same mistakes over and over again, or you're avoiding him because they're too rough, well, then maybe you could verbally communicate the type of role that you're looking for, or even verbally communicate the correct responses or things that person should be working on, because at the end of the day, that's going to make them a better training partner for you, right?
And not only that, they'll probably be a longer-term training partner, because I don't think there's anything more frustrating than going into a scenario where you don't speak the language and you want to be in this place, but you just can't figure it out. So if nothing else, you'll end up leaving. So jiu-jitsu, nobody in jiu-jitsu gets better by training by themselves. You've got to have somebody to train with, because you can train all you want in solo drills and even getting a dummy, but at some point it's only as effective as the responses that you don't see coming that you get from actual training partners.
And you have to educate yourself to a degree. You got to learn basic terminology. You have to expose yourself beyond the mat.
Yeah.
See what I did there?
Yeah, good job.
Just pat myself.
That's clever.
I think when it comes to training, a lot of men specifically, I think, don't communicate well because they don't want to seem like inferior to some degree, or they feel like, no, let's just roll, man. Let's just, even the people who are new, they're afraid to communicate what it is that they need to be working on. Or I can't tell you how many times I approach new people in jiu-jitsu and I say, well, what position are you working? And they're like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm gonna decide for you like what you're working. This is a self-exploration martial art. Like, this is a journey of self in a lot of ways. So you can't always rely on the leadership in the room to point you in the right direction. You have to be looking for the direction you're supposed to go.
Yeah, it's almost like jiu-jitsu is similar to a buffet in that you have all these different options on places you can play from, or positions you can play in, particular sweeps and submissions. And the instructor's role there is to just educate you on a little bit of everything, and in some cases a lot of some of the things. But you kind of get to pick what you want to specialize in. So when an instructor asks, like, hey, so you're competing in a couple weeks, have you thought about what position you want to play from? That responsibility lies on the shoulders of the person that's going to be competing. Like, you have to decide, just like you decided you want to compete, you have to decide, where do I want this fight to take place? Do I want to do a takedown? Do I want to pull guard? What does that look like when you pull guard? What guard do you go into? And where do you finish? How do you sweep? All those things. A good instructor will be able to help you navigate that path, but it's still your choice to at least decide, where does the path begin and where does it end? And everywhere in the middle, your coach can help you with that. But until you decide what you want to do, and then again, I mean, there's other opportunities where if you've got a coach who's got the time to say, well, I've noticed you're very good at this, you still have to buy in on what they're saying. Because if they say, hey, you're very good at shooting a double leg, you got to believe them and say, okay, well, coach says I'm good at shooting double legs, so I guess that's where I'm starting.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with also asking the right questions, You need to be able to answer the things that revolve around whatever it is you're working on. Like, if this guy does this, how am I supposed to deal with that?
Right.
So in real time, as you're sparring, you should be trying to recall what happened in those matches so that you can communicate later what you need to work. And that's kind of like a form of self-communication in a way. But what about like situations where we're not supposed to communicate? So like, for example, at open mat, even though we're telling people to go ahead and ask questions, sometimes your instructor just wants to roll.
Yeah.
Sometimes the leadership in the room, it's not a class setting, it's an open mat. So like guys aren't really wanting to answer 1,000 questions or spend that 5-minute round with you.
Chatting it up.
Now it's one thing working if you're like if you're very specific about something you want to drill, and it's like a group effort, I guess, but between the two people that are working together. But it's not a class setting. It's not a free private lesson. You also want to be respectful of the time of the people that are there to just do the live training.
Yeah. I mean, that's a conversation as well that you can have ahead of time. And the tough part of it is you kind of have to have that conversation with your students as well. If it's a scenario where like, I really just need to get some training in today myself, and while you might have questions, please understand that I'm not in question answering mode today. Like, this is purely fun for me. And I think I've seen, or at least heard of, Jeremy doing it once or twice where he'll have an open mat and he does it in a way where he's got a group of people where he knows he's not going to get those questions. He's going to get the opportunity to roll the way he wants to, and at the end of it, he gets to go home and doesn't feel like not necessarily time has been wasted, but feels he's got the opportunity to purely train and take his instructor/coach hat off and just purely enjoy the art of jiu-jitsu. So that's another way to have the conversation. But I don't know. I think from my personal standpoint, I don't get a whole lot of questions from people when I'm rolling. It's really just, hey, let's roll, and whatever you want to start, that's what we'll start. Because my intention is, if I'm doing everything right, I should be able to work myself to the position I want to be in, regardless of where the other person wants to start. So if I can start in anybody else's situation and get back to where I need to be, that's part of the nonverbal conversation we're going to have of, hey, you get to choose where you start, but I get to choose how we navigate to where I want to be from a conversation standpoint. And a lot of this goes back to a lot of the other podcasts we've had in the past, like knowing when to let go.
Yeah.
Handling your ego. Knowing about non-negotiables of the conversation.
Yeah, that feels like the big one, is the ego. So especially in a classroom setting when people ask questions that seemingly challenge the instructor.
Yeah.
Which we won't have to go down that road. But there are times where you want to be like thinking about the specifics of a question before you ask. There is this saying that goes, there are no such thing as stupid questions, but that's not the case in jiu-jitsu. So like a lot of times when people ask questions, they're so open-ended. Why does my single leg X suck? And it's like, dude, like, what is the problem you're specifically doing?
Yeah.
It's just not good. And it's like, okay, so what you're asking is a loaded question.
Yeah.
You need to shrink that down to specifics. Like, do you have problems getting into the guard? Do you have problems with a specific pass or position in the guard that they're not allowing you to use or have? Those kinds of things, you want to kind of start to address. Or
that happened. I got bars on mine. I could still hear. Yep. Hey, and welcome back to Be on the Mats podcast, episode 6.
Whoopsie daisies.
I'm your co-host, James Anthony Williams, and this is your host, Jeffrey F. Spain, doing the most right now.
Yeah, we just talked about how I forgot to plug the charger into the laptop that's doing the recording, and that maybe James should have a checklist for me of all of the complicated things I have to do to prepare the podcast.
We'll just blame it on me. Like,
Yeah.
you're the black belt. You get the privilege of being right.
So I've been used to doing this for years now.
It's my fault.
Things.
I probably should have checked. I stepped over this cord and I realized, something's not plugged up that's normally plugged up right there.
You're rolling too hard, James. You're rolling too hard,
That's
bro.
exactly what it was. That's exactly what it is. I'm not paying attention. Poor communication on my part.
Yeah.
I should have asked, like, hey, what's missing from over here?
Yeah, it seemingly should be a pretty obvious thing, but there's a lot of little plugs and whatnot happening.
Yeah.
But we've actually got the simplest setup compared to the last time where I was using like 3 different cameras. Like we have one cell phone, we have an interface.
No, it was 2 cell phones.
It was 2. Well, there was times where I was using 3. I would have a webcam.
At times it was 3, but it was. Yeah, well, I guess it was a webcam. Well, because for a while we were using my phone and your phone, I thought.
We had a phone focused on you, a phone focused on me, a webcam.
Focused on both of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then if there was a guest host, then it was another camera or phone.
Yeah.
It was busy.
And we had to set up and break down every time.
Oh, yeah. There was lights we had to put up and microphones and tables had to be moved and decorations. Yeah, it was a lot. So for those of you who ask, why did we stop the podcast? It was a lot. Like, this was something that I was setting up, or at least would start to set up after open mats on Saturdays. After I've cleaned the mats and I'm exhausted, now I'm setting up for podcasting. And then the next day we would do the podcast, and then we'd have to break everything down. And a lot of this stuff was held together with duct tape.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we would break things down. So the whole process itself would be 2 to 4 hours.
Yeah.
And then I would do editing and probably do too much with the editing because I was like,
let's include this.
I was just doing too much. You know, you don't need to do so much sometimes. You can keep things simple. So back to our topic with communication, it is good to communicate with your instructor the things you're looking for, any concerns you have with your training. You just have to do so in a tactful and thoughtful way, right? That doesn't interrupt the course of a class or the style training that's being done in the room at that time.
Yeah. And I think the point we were talking about before we lost power is there aren't stupid questions. I believe that there are not stupid questions, but I think the thing that I would call a stupid question is one that hasn't been thought out thoroughly. Someone asking questions should boil those questions down to, what are you trying to solve for in this moment? What specific thing are you trying to do? And it can't be as broad as, how do I win at jiu-jitsu? It's got to be something almost a microcosm of a question of, like, how do I specifically open a closed guard? Like that question, yes, we can answer, we can drill, we can kind of expand upon it. But if you ask something very broad and blanketed, it's going to be difficult to answer easily in a hour-long class.
Right. So, like, what's a way to break the closed guard?
Exactly.
Like, give me one way to break the closed guard.
Yeah.
It's a good specific question versus just how do I break it?
Yeah.
You know?
I think the one I get a lot is, how do I escape side control?
Yeah.
And while I can show you 3 or 4 different ways to escape side control, the ultimate way of getting out of side control is knowing the timing. Knowing when is the time to escape side control is not as much of how. Because you can know how, but it's still not work because you don't know when to use it or when to do it.
I wonder if there's stats that show exactly like what things people research the most, and I wonder if side control is one of
it's got to
those
be at the
things.
top.
It's like bottom side control.
Oh, yeah.
What do I do when I'm in bottom side control? A dude is just holding me down, you know, putting it to the test.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm going to look it up right now.
You got chat open. There you go. Which I know when I was a white belt, it was side control.
When I was a white belt, for me, it was side control.
Yeah.
Like, and then when I got tested for my purple belt, and the exercise that Jeremy had us do was, hey, you're going to start in the bottom of smash half. And to progress, you got to get out of it. And it dawned on me, I was like, whoa, while this is still a guard, this is probably worse than side control. Because not only does he have me flattened out and he can sub me from here, I should be able to do something, and it's not working. And so I knew the ways, and I knew the different things, like using Z guard and using butterfly hook, depending on how they were pressing in. But man, it was tougher than side control in that moment, and it could have been because it was after an open mat and I was exhausted. Who knows? But that's when jiu-jitsu really kicks in, when you're tired.
Yeah. What's it say?
All right. So it says, how long does it take to get the next belt level? That is the most frequently, or one of the most frequently asked BJJ questions. How long does it take to get to the next belt level? Other common beginner questions: am I too old? What should I expect in my first class? Why am I not improving? What basic positions and techniques should I learn first? Side control ain't on here.
Oh, those are all actually, I think, pretty valid questions.
They are. But to that point, I mean, all of those answers go back to communication, because a lot of that is people knowing it's okay to ask certain things.
Yeah.
I've had how do I get promoted?
Yeah. I've had people ask me every single one of those questions.
Yeah, well, I'm sure. I mean, because that's not new to anything. And I kind of appreciate that about jiu-jitsu, that it does take as long as it does to get a black belt, because it kind of puts it on a pedestal that the majority of the world won't reach. Where it may take 100 white belts to pass through a building for you to get one person to move up to blue belt. By the time, with that math and logic, by the time you get to a black belt, there's roughly 500 plus people that you've interacted with that have started and left jiu-jitsu by the time you get to a black belt.
And let's talk about the physicality, or the more like nonverbal part of communication in jiu-jitsu, where you're actually sparring with somebody, and what competitiveness feels like versus what a flow roll feels like.
Yeah.
So like there's some people who, and I think maybe everybody has done it at a certain point in their journey, where they're nursing an injury or some kind of pain or whatever, and they want to tell people about it. Hey man, I hurt my big toe because dude over here toe barred me yesterday.
Yeah, got an old toe hook.
I might be tapping. Just take it easy. Just don't grab my leg, or And so, I think it's wise, if you have an injury, to just make it your responsibility to address it. And how do you do that, James?
I mean, you have to protect yourself, number one. And the best way to communicate that, hey, that thing that already hurt is hurting now, is by tapping.
Yeah, that's it. Tap-a-roo.
Yeah, you could say it early and say, hey, just so you know, if you get a hold of my arm, I'm probably going to tap fast because it's already hurting.
Yeah, I don't even think you should say that. After thinking about this for a while, like, don't tell. If you want a role that's honest with what you're dealing with, and you're already going to be competitive anyway, in your mind you're going to be that way, then don't say anything. Like, just let the role be what it is, and if you're hurt, then you tap when it becomes a problem in the role. And also, don't ask for a flow roll and then not flow roll. Like, don't ask if you don't even know what a flow roll is. What I love about this is something Jeremy told me a while back, which is like, he wishes that people could see what it feels like to roll as a black belt, like the perfect roll, because you can fight the details to such a minute degree that you could be competitive in a flow roll.
Really?
Without being super aggressive, without overcompensating and trying to use athletics to overcome guards or sweeps. So it makes perfect sense, because I feel that when you and I roll, you've done a really good job of, like, learning how to fight the details, and that's what makes, for me, the sport so much fun and worth the journey, because you can train in a way that's competitive, that's not physical.
Yeah. I mean,
relies on physicality.
No, I know what you mean. I mean, it's one of those scenarios where I have over time, you know that you've got however many years on the mat, you want to be able to keep doing this. You're not going to be able to keep doing it if every roll is to the death. So you have to be able to say, okay, which one is more important in this moment? Not getting swept or letting him take my back. Well, from a mathematical standpoint, if I get swept, that's 2 points and I have the chance to get my guard back. If I keep fighting this and he takes my back, well, now I'm down 4 points and he's in a position to be able to finish. So based on what he's telling me with his communication and his body movements, I need to let him have this sweep so that I can keep playing. And that's how the conversation goes back and forth. Okay, I will let you have this so that I have the opportunity to do something else on the back end of it.
Right, especially if you screwed up. You screwed up.
Oh, yeah. I
and
already messed up and I'm behind.
Yeah.
And now he's chasing my back while I'm trying not to get swept. Okay, yeah, I don't want to have my back taken because that's a bigger loss. But if I give him the sweep, maybe I could get those 2 points back at some other point.
And then there's the body language of a competitor who thinks that they are the best, or who operates in a way that is like, I'm going to win. That's just the fact. There's like a mental communication that it sends to the opponent when that happens. And Gordon Ryan, I think, sold like a DVD where he talks about it. But there's plenty of people in sports in general that like talk about the mental win before the match even happens. Yeah. Like the guy looks across and he can see, it's like the fear in the other person. Yeah. And the doubt, right?
Or you can project that, hey, I plan on winning this.
That aura.
Yeah. Like, who is it? Leandro Lowe. He did it very well. You can look at him across the ring from his opponent, and he always had this air of him of like, yeah, this is mine to win. You're just the next person in line to stand behind me.
And there's not like, of course, there's some level of arrogance for some people.
Yeah.
And Gordon Ryan's not a great example of somebody who's exactly humble.
No.
But if I were to use somebody as an example, I would probably say George St. Pierre. George St. Pierre is like the pinnacle example of what a martial artist should be, right? Yeah. He was like diverse, like
humble,
credible shape, but also had that I am going to win, robotic confidence. But I mean, it was legit, man. I mean, he was one of the best in the world, and even came back after like 5 years of not being in a cage. And I think he fought Michael Bisping.
Yep.
And ended up beating the brakes off of him. So
I mean, he probably could still come back today in the right weight class, probably do the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, hands down, I feel like there's still gas in that tank, and he could probably take a couple people out.
Oh yeah, I think so. So, talking about ways to communicate in jiu-jitsu, how does this translate? How do the things we've talked about translate into real life scenarios where communication is important?
I mean, it's everywhere you go. I mean, you have to have those small conversations that help prevent bigger conversations. If you're waiting until something is an issue to communicate something, well, of course, it's going to probably blow up or it's going to end bad. Like the example I gave of, do I want to wait until somebody's take my back and now I'm at a point of almost losing, or do I want to address it early and fall on the sword and say, hey, I messed up here. This is what I did. This is what I plan on doing to correct it. So owning up to mistakes early and often and trying to progress forward instead of waiting until things get bad because you decided not to communicate.
Yeah, and calling back to the setting boundaries episode where avoiding conflict can cause more issues, right? So like if there is something that you need to communicate, however small, avoiding doing that could mean bigger conversations down the road that are heavier, because you avoided them to begin with, the smaller ones.
And setting your intentions, just like in jiu-jitsu, you make your intentions known every time you get a grip set. As soon as you see a particular grip set, the person knows, like, okay, this is where he wants to go. Do I want to go down that path? But in a everyday setting, you set your intentions with people by letting them know, hey, I want to have a conversation with you around this particular topic. It may be a topic of potential growth, or a topic around wanting to improve on something, or wanting something to change. So setting those intentions with individuals so they kind of know, like, hey, this is a conversation that I think we need to have in regards to X.
And there's so many different types of communication nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
You've got your texting,
Yep.
you've got emails, you've got talking in person, you've got talking to people via podcast, right?
Yeah.
What they call it, the fourth wall in movies.
Yeah.
So, like, what is the appropriate type of communication, like, based on what's going on, based on what you're trying to get across, or who you're trying to connect with?
Yeah, I think a lot of that varies with the situation. Like, if I had something very important to say to somebody that's like from more of an official nature, that wouldn't be something that I would just do as a face-to-face. It would be something that I would want to make sure is documented and high visibility. Like, if I wanted to communicate something to my lawyer or a judge or something, I would want that to be some official document written down, or something that could have some kind of seal on it. But if it's, hey, I'm picking up dinner tonight, a text is fine. Like, that's, it's those kind of things. So I think all forms of communication are good, but the person that is communicating has to know what is the appropriate communication, because even when you don't say anything, that's still a form of communication, because it's giving intention. If I know for a fact you're aware of a certain situation and you said nothing about it intentionally, well, that communicates to me that you're potentially trying to hide something. So absence of communication is still communication. So for somebody in a relationship, those are things that you have to consider and look out for. Is my lack of communicating that I don't care or I'm not interested?
And it's interesting because everybody's reality is different, right?
Yeah.
So when you're trying to communicate with somebody something that's important to you, and their reality, they have a hard time showing empathy for where you're coming from, it makes for hostility. So it's like, how do you figure out the right time, or how do you figure out the way to communicate to break those barriers? And then also, how do you know when it's time to just stop communicating?
Yeah, good point. I'm not sure if I mentioned it to you, but when I turned in my notice at my last job at FedEx, I typed up my resignation maybe a couple weeks before I actually sent it. And it just sat in my inbox, draft email, because my manager at the time, I wasn't very happy with him, and he did a lot of like underhanded things that just made me feel really, really gross about working there, because of some of the things that I had to do as a part of the job, like firing people, those kind of things. And I don't mean firing people for the sake of them not performing, but I mean doing it because the building was closing, and as part of it, we had to release people over and over again over the course of like 4 months. And you're talking about 250 people who had worked in this building for, in some cases, up to 20 years. Like, some of them probably closer to 30, because some of them worked there in 99. And so here I am, like, releasing these people. But knowing what type of person he was, I really had got such a icky feeling from him, I guess, for lack of better terms, that I didn't even want to tell him face to face that I was resigning. I just sent it as an email and just wished that he would not even have responded. Wish he would have just took it and said, all right, cool, thanks, and kept moving. But after I sent it, maybe an hour or so later, he called me, and his lack of communication told me a lot. The first thing he said when he called me was, hey, I hope this doesn't come off wrong, but I'm really happy for you that you found something else, because I don't know where that building is going, and I don't know that there would have been a future there for you. And the thing that told me a lot about him in the moment is he had another general manager position probably 10 minutes down the road at another facility that had just lost their general manager because he resigned as well. And if he were going to even entertain me taking that role at the other building, he would have, in that conversation with me, said, well, hey, while I'm happy you found something, you do realize I have another building over here that's going to need a general manager. Like, are you sure you don't want to like apply for that one or wait and see what happens with that role? But the fact that he didn't say that told me everything that I needed to know. He wouldn't have selected me, and I would have been without a job, and my family would have been out without that income that I bring. So that's why I say the verbal communication you put out there, or the lack of communication you put out there, tells other people a lot as well.
Yeah, that's tough waters to navigate when you're employed somewhere and you want to be the guy that does the right thing, or you've always been that guy, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to communicate with my boss on a daily basis. He wants me to do things that I'm supposed to do, but even though I don't necessarily agree with them, they're not necessarily, I mean, I guess you could argue ethics, but, you know, when a company's being sold and people are getting laid off, that's just life, right?
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, when it comes to your personal success, and the guy who you're supposed to be working for doesn't have any kind of interest or like care to tell you, like, hey man, we're not going to be offering you anything higher than what you're doing now, or even a sidestep,
or even to continue.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, you might as well start getting your affairs in order.
Yeah.
And the reason why don't they tell you that? Because they want to keep you as long as possible doing exactly what you've been doing until they don't need you anymore.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is that's an example of an employer-employee relationship. But that dynamic exists in personal relationships too.
It does.
So it's like there's a time and a place where you see something for what it is, and it's like you have to ask yourself, am I doing myself more harm by continually trying to make this communication work?
Yeah.
Right. Versus stepping back and just saying, hey, like, the damage has been done. You know?
You know, it's and I know we're talking about how it applies in real life, but the communication that you have with somebody on the mats, somebody earlier this week just told me that I thought that you didn't like me, James. And I was like, wait, why would you say that? It's like, well, because every time I get on the mat with you, all you do is beat the brakes off of me. And I don't understand. You seem so nice. And then when we get on the mats, it's like, oh, he's an animal. Like, why does he hate me? And the communication aspect of it is that it's not that I'm purposely going tough on people. It's like lions eat their own, right? So, I mean, my intention is I want to beef people up so that when they go out into a tournament, hopefully they don't go against somebody that's that tough and they have a better opportunity to win. So
it's honestly a compliment if James is going hard with you, because he respects your strength and abilities, and I've imagined that there's several people who have had this conversation with you.
Nobody. Only one person said it to me, and he knows who he is. But no, it's those other forms of communication. It's like you said, it's almost like a compliment.
Yeah.
Because if you feel like somebody's putting a lot of effort into what they're doing with you, they're telling you good job. Good job so much that I have to turn up my intensity to keep up with you. And Jeff goes hard on me all the time. So he says it's a compliment, but I don't always believe it because he's not laughing at the end.
It's my love language, but only when I'm winning.
Oh, there it is. That's very true. That's very true.
When I'm on bottom, it's not my love language
anymore. No, it
still
spot.
Is. Yeah.
I don't think I've seen him in a bad spot. Even after this Saturday, like literally your least favorite guard, I think, is bottom smash half guard. It's like, I don't think that's true. I've seen you get out of that many a times.
You ever read that book, The 5 Love Languages? You heard of that
I
book?
started to. I didn't read through all of it. I think I got through maybe the first 2 or 3.
I'm gonna try
I'm
to
just
take it.
picking mine.
So there's gift giving is one.
Mm-hmm.
There's quality time. There's touch. Let's see. There's 2 more. There's affirmation, words of affirmation, and then there's oh shoot. So
I feel like you've
giving.
named 5 already.
Did I do 5 already?
I think so.
Okay. I probably missed one. I feel like, unless I can't count or I got 4 fingers. I don't know.
Well, you were still going, and I was like, yep, 1, 2, 3. Okay, that sounds like 4, 5. Oh, wait, there's another one after 5?
Maybe I hit 5. Anyway, that also, it's good to understand that, because then that book specifically, which I recommend to people, teaches you across the wide spectrum of relationships that you have, right? Whether it be professional or personal. And it teaches you about understanding the other person's language, right? And how they communicate and what they are looking for, right? And there's also a prayer that I learned in a 12-step program, which is called the St. Francis prayer. And in that prayer, it talks a lot about seeking to understand as opposed to being understood. And there's so much power in that, because I feel like most people are trying to be understood versus just looking to understand the other person.
Yeah.
And just changing that, like flipping that narrative in your head of being like, oh, you know what? I'm not going to explain myself to this person. Let me work better at like just like being a support for them, right? Or trying to understand where they're coming from. And this is where setting boundaries comes in.
Yeah.
Because it's like you can do that to an extent as long as it doesn't harm you in the end, right? But it's just powerful, and I think when you're of service to others in that way, where you're not focused on being understood but understanding, there's peace that comes with that.
Yeah, I've heard that same thing. I didn't know it came from that St. Francis prayer, but I've heard that as well. Seek to understand before being understood. I think it helps a lot in communication as well, because a lot of times we're so fixated on trying to understand, get your point across, that you completely snowball or plow over the fact that somebody's trying to communicate something, and you both may be talking about something completely different, not related, and trying to fit a square plug in a round hole. It's not going to work out that way. So you have to be willing to kind of overstep your ego and say, how do I take a step back and focus my efforts on listening first and truly understanding what this person's trying to get across to me, because that may completely change my argument. It may completely change what I'm thinking in terms of this very moment. It may be that, oh, I thought they were trying to say something completely different. I thought something else. So now here we are trying to have an argument, and come to find out we really don't even realize what each other's trying to communicate.
And then it brings up picking and choosing your battles wisely, right? Because there might be something you're fighting hard to understand or to be understood. So either way, on that instance, you're fighting hard for that thing, and then it's just not happening. Like, do you keep fighting, or is your peace like being disrupted because of this fight? You know?
I mean, I think a lot of arguments happen from a standpoint of somebody wants peace, but in getting peace, they think it's going to come from somebody else understanding their situation or understanding their standpoint. And that's not true. I can't get peace out of a conversation with somebody because they have given me what I want. The peace that I'm going to receive is going to be from me deciding I am okay with the outcome of this conversation, regardless of whether it happens or not. So if I am able to be at peace with the fact that this person doesn't understand what I'm saying, or that this conversation is going nowhere, if I could be at peace with that, the conversation is now mute. There's no reason to even continue to pursue it. On a jiu-jitsu mat, if I am having a conversation with somebody and this person is doing all kinds of crazy stuff that doesn't look like jiu-jitsu, well, the way to end that conversation is, okay, I'm going to put you in a position where you don't have the opportunity to speak anymore. I'm going to be on your back, and this is going to be over as soon as I finish this choke and this one-arm Kimura.
Or you just don't train with that person.
That's another way to have a conversation as
do
well.
That too.
Yeah, I just can't start. We don't see eye to eye. I can't talk to you. Go let my peers train you up first, and then come talk to me after you know how to do this.
I do think that it should be a privilege for people to roll with upper belts, like where people sometimes are like, there's kind of two ends of the spectrum where some people believe that you shouldn't ask upper belts to roll, and there's some people believe that, you should always be able to ask upper belts to roll, and they should always roll with you. And it's like, yes and no. Like, there's some people that I won't train with purely because I don't think that I don't understand. I don't really
speak their language.
I don't trust their intentions.
Really?
And it couldn't be, and not in a way that they would hurt me on the mat, but just in who they are. It's like, I feel like for me to train with people, like I want it to be with people I enjoy training with. Otherwise, it's going to feel like a fight, or I just, for whatever reason, I just don't feel the vibe. But also in terms of, oh God. So I just pulled an Alex. Oh God. Oh God. We were talking about leading up to coping styles, right? So the way people cope with things can be different. So like, for example, if I can only find peace if we talk about something right now and we hash out every detail right now, or else I will not have peace until this conversation is done.
Yeah.
Right? Versus this conversation is overwhelming me.
Yeah.
I can't even think straight because you're demanding these answers from me right now. You're demanding to have this talk.
Mm-hmm.
I need to run away to find peace so that I can recalibrate how I truly feel or think about something.
Right.
You
need time to internalize.
So when you have these two different coping styles clashing, it's and I'm not sure if one is right or wrong. I don't know if running away from the problem is wrong. I don't know if forcing somebody to have the talk is the right way. Like that is something that I feel like can cause relationships to break down. And be done. And it's like, the sad part is there's no real betrayal that's happened. It's just the fact that the two coping styles are completely different, you know, and when they're put together, it just explodes.
Yeah.
Right.
When I went to counseling or therapy, that was one of the things that was discussed. Like, if somebody feels like a conversation has to take place and the other person needs a moment, the person that is pressing should be adult enough to say, okay, I understand you need a moment before we can have this conversation. When do you think we could talk about it, and set a time around it at a later point that it could be discussed? And both parties have to agree, like, hey, we're going to table this for now because it's not life-threatening, and we'll move on to something else, but we'll come back to it at that agreed-upon time. And that should be okay. But if it's not okay, well, that tells you what kind of person you're dealing with, because a person who cares about you is going to respect your boundaries enough to say, okay, they need a moment to process what's taking place. And if I don't give them that, or I'm not willing to give them that, I probably don't care as much about them as I like to portray that I do.
You can give them that, but the energy between now and then matters too.
Oh, yeah.
So like, if your energy is like angry, right, and you're just upset with the person or whatever for not doing things the way you wanted to do them, that could cause friction down the road. Even when that conversation finally does happen, it's like,
well, again, that the person that is struggling with the first part and struggling with that as well, they're communicating a lot to you about who they really are. They're communicating that in these moments, if I don't get what I want, you're going to get the worst version of me. And that's also communication, whether it be verbal or nonverbal. So it gives you all those indications that you need to make a decision when the time comes. If I want to continue being in a relationship with this person, or if I want to continue interacting with this person. And when I say a relationship, it could even be a friendship. Like, hey, do I want to be a friend with somebody who, whenever they're upset, turns into this kind of vicious version of themselves and won't even give me a few minutes to think? That would be somebody I would personally probably cut off, because that's not good for my long-term health, my mental health, my emotional health.
Unless it's somebody you love.
If it's somebody I love, we gotta have
tough.
we gotta have that conversation.
That's the hard thing, right?
I know.
And the more you have invested in that person, the harder it is.
Yes, you're right. But if you love them and they love you, I would like to think they'd be able to, hopefully, be able to take that feedback and say, like, okay, I know I'm coming in hot. I know you need time. Just know that I'm antsy and I'm anxious right now. Being able to at least communicate how they feel while they're having to wait is somewhat helpful for the other person that's trying to get it together on the other end as well.
Yeah.
But all of this comes from having those conversations and communication. If you just assume the world's revolving around you, or you are just seeking to be understood, you're not really putting yourself in the other person's shoes and trying to make the situation better. You're just trying to dictate how the next few moments play out.
Yeah, and ultimately actions will speak louder than any words you could speak. So, if you're taking certain actions as a result of not getting what you want, that will speak volumes more than any conversation would.
Oh,
so,
easily.
Just things to keep in mind, guys, when you're dealing with people and just, searching for the right decisions to make. Because it's not easy. And a lot of times these struggles are with people that are closest to us. So leaning on things like prayer and meditation, I feel like helps a lot. Counseling with close friends. But that in itself, sometimes when you communicate with people about personal relationships, you have to be careful, because your friends and your family could have biased opinions. And they could steer you in a direction that, while good intentioned, may not be what's best for you. So there is a point where you have to make decisions for yourself and not just have others think for you. So that is the challenge of life, I feel like, to a large degree.
Knowing when to push and when to pull, when to hold on, when to let go.
And there's no right or wrong answer. I think we only get one life, and ultimately you don't want to be, when you think about being old and sick and what are the regrets that you're going to have, those are the things that you need to think about when you're making your decisions, I think.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, if you focus so much on putting a lot of emphasis on every single decision you make in life, I think you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunities, because there is something to be gained in just taking a chance on certain situations and seeing how they play out. Of course, I'm not talking about things that'll hurt you physically or mentally or emotionally, but taking a chance on having a conversation with somebody is going to be a lot more rewarding than not having a conversation with somebody. And the sooner the better. Anytime you delay things, it just magnifies everything that's about to take place afterwards. And we build up these mountains of fear and anxiety behind having a conversation so much that we blow things out of proportion. And by the time you finally have the conversation, you find that some people will say, oh, you should have told me that months ago, because, I mean, I don't mind doing something different. And even on the mats, if you are building up anxiety about rolling with a particular person because they are tough or they look tough, they may understand exactly where you are in that moment, and they may give you a role that matches your level. But you don't know that until you have that conversation with them.
And this is where you got to check your expectations.
Yeah.
Because unfulfilled expectations lead to resentment, right?
Exactly. I think one thing that, as upper belts, just thinking in terms of jiu-jitsu, that upper belts can do is compliment the lower belts when they do the right thing. I know you say not to treat them like puppies and dogs, but I mean, just like with animals, you compliment them when they do something right and let them know.
Reinforcement.
Yeah, let them know that, hey, this is the behavior we expect. This is what I want to see out of you. This is what's going to get you from good to great. So those kind of things are the vital parts of communication that make it successful. And so people know what your intentions are. It's not that I'm trying to beat the brakes off you. It's that I want to see you improve, and this is something good that you're doing. Keep doing that. Even when you are having conversations with your children or day to day, make sure you tell the people that are closest to you, hey, good job on that. This is exactly what I would like to see out of somebody in your position working on these particular things, because people will start to adapt and build up themselves around those things that you're complimenting them on, so that you continue to get those improved results out of them.
Any closing thoughts, James?
No, I mean, I think we pretty much hit them just a second ago. Just understanding the value in having good communication with people and focusing on the intention of the conversation and trying to put aside your anxieties and reaching out to individuals early and in advance so that you can kind of set level expectations and what you're looking for out of your experience in jiu-jitsu, what you're looking for out of your experience in relationships. Set those expectations early so that you can kind of grow and evolve together, because yes, we need or we want one thing today, but in 5 years from now, that may change for everybody. The same thing that I was doing in jiu-jitsu when I started is not the same thing that I'm doing now, but that doesn't mean I can't call on it at a later date and use it again and probably have success with it just because people forgot that I could do that.
Well said, James.
Thanks.
Well, cool, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this episode 6 of Be on the Mats. If you guys want to look up our handle, it is at Be on the Mats, 4 words squished together as one word. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify. That's where you can find us, or you can email us at beyondthemats@gmail.com. James, thanks for communicating with me today, brother.
Hey, thanks for communicating with me, Jeff. I bought your shirt. It was the wrong size. I guess you should have communicated what your shirt size was so we could have got that right on the first try.
I've grown since you first met me.
You have, clearly.
Not in a good way. Thanks, guys.
Later.